This video has become a yearly tradition on the channel and I'm really excited to make a new one. And today I'm going to show you exactly how I organize and plan my life using my bullet journal. And I'm going to show you my easy and quick, very minimal bullet journal setup for the year of 2021. And like I said, this is super quick and easy to set up, no art or drawings, very minimal. And I'm going to show you exactly how I do it using a flip through so that you can follow along and use it to set up your own bujo as you like. I'm going to quickly show you everything that I use for my bullet journaling, but if you want to skip straight ahead to the setup for the year of 2021, then you can skip to this timestamp. This year I bought a new journal because my old one was full, and I decided to go for a Leuchtturm 1917 notebook because I've been really enjoying my previous one and I find them to have high quality. So this time I chose the color berry, but of course you can use any notebook that you like. I do, however, recommend going for a dotted notebook instead of a lined one. And for pens this year, I decided to get a set of fine liners instead of using just one. I like that this gives me the option to choose a thicker pen for the lines and a very fine pen for the numbers and the calendars. There's a link in the description for everything that I'm using here. So all I use is this notebook and a few pens, and you can also just use a single pen. And as for the rest, you can decide to use washi tape, stickers, colored markers, but you don't have to. You can also keep it very simple. And I also chose this year not to use a ruler or a pencil or whiteout. So if I make a mistake, I just let it stay there because it's okay, I'm not perfect, and it is a great exercise to be less of a perfectionist. So let's begin with the flip through. When it comes to bullet journaling, I prefer functionality over aesthetics. And I think these artsy journals are beautiful, but for me, I like to be able to set up pages in 1 or 2 minutes. So that is what I kept in mind for this setup. And for me, this system allows me to have everything in one place, organize both my work and personal life, and combine productivity with mindfulness. The first page in my bullet journal is an index. And I actually didn't bother with a key this time because I find that I never really used it before. So this is what the key looked like in my old bullet journal. It's where you specify what the little symbols mean. Making an index will help you to be able to find pages quickly. So I just made a column for the topic and then a column for the page numbers. And this journal already has page numbers in here, but if yours doesn't, then you can add them yourself. In the bottom corner, I also added how many dots there are in this journal, vertically and horizontally. And this makes it easier to divide up pages into 1 or 3 parts, because then you don't have to count all the dots every time. As for decorating, the only decorating I have done in my bullet journal this year are these little lines at the top. And I find them nice because they kind of make the page appear a bit more structured. But of course, they are totally optional, and it still makes it very possible for me to set up a page like this in 1 or 2 minutes max. I always like to start the new year with a quote that really inspires me, and this time I chose a passage from one of my favorite songs by one of my favorite artists, so bonus points if you leave a comment down below if you know who this is. So the base of a bullet journal usually consists of a yearly planning, monthly planning, and weekly planning. This is my future log for the year of 2021, and a future log basically offers you an overview of your entire year at a glance, and this is much more elaborate than what I did last year. I chose this because last year I found that I missed having this overview and being able to add all the important dates, birthdays, things like that. I divided up the pages into 3 columns of 9 dots each, and I added a quick calendar at the top. This was actually a bit of work to set up, but I really enjoy how it turned out. I can add a birthday calendar in here, important days I want to remember, and just use this calendar for the entire year. Now, for those of you who prefer a simpler setup for the future log, this is what I did last year. And I just made a few vertical boxes, one for each month, and then you can fill them up with the things that you want to remember for that month. But as you can see, I didn't really end up using this spread much because of the small spaces, so I'm really happy with my new future log setup. Next, we have something new I added, which is a monthly check-in. And I want to start doing this at the start of a new month, and it is something I've enjoyed as a mindfulness exercise lately, so I wanted to incorporate it into my bullet journal. Every month I'll give a rating to these different aspects of my life, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. And you can also set this up as a graph, but I find this to be much easier. This just gives me a lot of insight into how I'm doing in the different areas of my life that I find important, and discover patterns or trends on how I can take good care of my well-being. And on the left, I created this reflections page. So if there's anything that I notice, any patterns, for example, from this check-in, then I can reflect on them and write things down for myself on this reflections page. And next we get to my monthly spread, and this is one of the most important types of pages for me in my bullet journal because I like to organize my life by month. And I also chose this to organize my uploading schedule for YouTube and for Patreon. And again, I chose a very different setup than last year. To set this up, I created 7 boxes horizontally and 5 boxes vertically, and the boxes are all 7 by 7 dots big. At the top, I put the days of the week, and of course, if you prefer to start your week at Sundays, that's also something that you can do. And I used the top left corners to write the days of the week, crossing out the ones that aren't within that month. And I always like to have a little bit of room for notes in my monthly spreads, so that is what I did here. I'm a bit of a scatterbrain, so this helps me to keep things organized and don't forget important things. For example, in January, I need to remember to do my taxes, so I can add any important information in this notes section. When it comes to bullet journaling, I think most people prefer to set up their monthly spread for that month and then follow up with the weekly spreads within that month. And then when they are done, they create a new setup for the new month. And I, however, prefer to have all my monthly spreads together and then just flip back and forth. It just makes more sense to me somehow, and it works better in my index. So what I did is create the first 3 for the first 3 months, and then I just left room for all of the other months of the year. Next is another new addition to my journal, and I'm really excited about this, my monthly budget system. And this is a very simple system that I use. I've used this for years, but I normally keep it on my phone. But this year I thought, why not add it to my bullet journal as well? So I created 4 boxes to 1 page, 1 box for each month, and they are 12 by 15 dots. What I do is I write down the money that I have available to me at the start of each new month, and this is my salary minus the amount of money I put away in my savings. Then I list all the expenses that I know I have coming up, all the bills, outings, things I know I have to buy, plus the amounts that I expect these things are going to cost me. And then at the bottom, I just write down how much money I have left after all the expenses. So this will mean that this is my discretionary income for the month and that I am able to spend on whatever I like. So as the month progresses, I will often go back to these budget overviews and kind of update them a little bit to see if I'm still on track. And it is because of these little budget overviews that I make sure I'm not overspending. The next part consists of a few lists that I like to keep. You can use any type of lists that you like, of course, and this is pretty straightforward, so I'm going to show these quickly. I like to keep my lists very simple and easy and minimal, so I like the structure of just creating a box around a page because it makes the whole thing just appear a little bit more structured to me. You can definitely see that the lines are not completely straight since I don't use a ruler, but I really don't mind because this is so much quicker to set up. If you have been following my channel for a while, you know that I am a minimalist, and because of that, I always like to use a wish list to make sure that I am not making a lot of impulse purchases. I always keep them in 4 categories, so I have a list for anything that I want to buy for my wardrobe, anything I want to buy for my home, anything I want to buy for my channel, so things like equipment and gear and stuff, and then the last category is other. Every time I find myself wanting to buy something, I will add it first here to my wish list. And I'll think about it for a while, and depending on how expensive the item is or how big it will be in my house, I take some time, so it can be anywhere from a few days to even a few months. And then this gives you also time to do a little research, see how I feel about it later. And if I still want to go out and buy the item, then I will do that later. I also created a section for someday projects. And if you're like me and you have a lot of ideas coming to you about all kinds of different things at different times, then this is a great list to keep. Every time I think of a project that I might want to do in the future, I can add it here, and it can be things for the channel or for my home or for my personal life. Doesn't matter, anything goes. I will first write the project here, just a simple list, and then for priority, I will choose either 1, 2, or 3 stars, and that way I can make sure to prioritize the projects that are most important to me. I always like to create a place in my journal that I can use as a regular notebook, so that I can use for jotting down some notes wherever and whenever, and that is what I did with this setup. And if this gets full, I can always create a few more pages. This actually finishes up the part of my bullet journal that will stay the same for the whole year of 2021. And after this, we will get to the part that will be set up again and again as the new months and weeks come by. So to mark this, I added a little bit of washi tape right here so that I can always find it easier. Of course, these things are completely optional. I just happen to have some washi tape lying around, so I decided to use it. And because I wanted to incorporate more mindfulness to my bullet journal this year, I decided to add a habit tracker. And this is my habit tracker for the year of January. I don't know if I'm going to use this every month, might be every 2 or 3 months, I'm not sure yet. And this includes practicing piano, studying Japanese, meditating, and doing yoga. When it comes to habit trackers, I am always very careful with them because I want them to be a positive thing in my life and not have this page of unrealistic goals and expectations for myself that I need to do a certain activity a certain amount of times a week, for example, and then beat myself up over it if I'm not making it. So I'm only going to use these habit trackers to be mindful of when I am doing these positive habits and activities. And I purposefully chose not to add goals to them. And I also chose to keep them positive and not add things that have negative connotations for me. Like, for example, I don't track my weight or my exercising, and I only try to keep it positive. But of course, you can choose to track any habit or activity that you like. These are very easy and simple to set up, just little 7x5 boxes that you can use as a calendar, and then you can color in the days that you did something, like I did here, or you can just simply put a circle around the days that you did something. At the right, I have a list of end-of-day gratitudes, and I always like to end a working day with writing down something that happened that day that I feel grateful for. And then I can always read this whenever I want, and this list is also something that I keep throughout the month, and then set up again when a new month gets here. And now we're almost finished, and we're actually getting to the most important part of my bullet journal, at least for me, the weekly spreads. And I use these every day, and they are the biggest help for me to keep my life and my tasks organized, keep myself motivated and productive, and also make sure that I am not doing too much or not expecting too much of myself. And for this year, I actually chose 2 different setups for my weekly spreads, depending on my needs. Some weeks I prefer to kind of have just a rolling to-do list for that week and be very flexible about what I want to do when. And other weeks I really prefer to be very specific and schedule certain tasks and to-dos on certain days of the week. So depending on my needs, I can choose one of these 2 options. For the weekly to-do list, I will use actually the exact same setup that I used last year. So on the right, I add all the tasks that I want to do that week. And then on the left, I made these little brackets for the specific days. And this is where I write down all my appointments, meetings, everything that's going on in my personal life. And then at the bottom of the right page, I have a little section for notes. So anything important going on that week, I can use the notes section from the monthly pages and copy that here. And then we get to my second weekly spread setup, and this is actually pretty different. Again, I divided up the pages into 3 columns of 9 dots each, and then at the top I wrote the days of the weeks and the dates. And the weekend column is divided up into 2 smaller ones, since I usually have less to-dos on the weekends. I use this for the weeks where I prefer to have all my tasks listed per day instead of in a big to-do list for the week. Alternatively, what you could also choose to do is make this whole column for example, Saturday, and leave Sundays out of your setup. And this could help to keep one day a week free and not schedule anything in. So that is something that you could also do. So I use the same system that I've been using for my daily to-do lists in this spread. So first I identify one MIT, which stands for most important task. And this is the one thing that you absolutely want to get done that day. And this is great because it helps me to not overschedule myself, not be unrealistic with everything that I want to do, as well as to make sure that I am actually doing the thing that has the most priority for me. Next, I identify 2 other tasks that I can do when my MIT is finished. For example, my MIT could be filming a video, and then the 2 other tasks could be answering my comments and writing a newsletter. And then at the bottom, I have a list of 5 or max 5 tiny things that I have to do that day, such as answering an email or a phone call, doing the laundry, or picking up a prescription, etc. So I don't have to write down 5 things, but I have to limit myself to max 5 things. So this is how I organize my life using my minimal bullet journal. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up because that helps. And if you want more videos about minimalism, intentional living, happiness, and self-care, then be sure to subscribe to the channel for weekly videos. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Have you tried bullet journaling? What are your experiences with it? Do you like a minimal setup like this one, or do you prefer to get creative and make it really artsy? I'm curious to know. As always, questions, comments, conversations down below. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.